Hi, everybody. Bryan Norcross here with your tropical update on Hurricane Isaias. This is based on the 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. And we have Isaias shrinking a little bit in terms of how far out the strong winds go, but maintaining hurricane strength. Let's first of all take a look at the radar from the Bahamas. This radar coming in about 20 minutes before 11 o'clock, showing you where the center of the storm was located. There is the eye wall right there. So imagine the eye of the storm just along the coastline there of Andros Island. It's moving in a northwesterly direction. So this is going to approach the western end, at least, of New Providence, where Nassau is, where the airport there is. But in any case, there's a band coming through there now. There's another one coming. And then the eye wall, where the strongest winds are, going to come very, very close to the capital. So that's what we're going to be tracking as it moves on up to the northwest. But it does look like this worst weather is going to stay offshore of Miami-Dade and Broward County. We're going to have a fringe effect here. And when we look at this radar, you can really see where the bad weather is. Look at it. It's all over on the other side of the storm. So I shouldn't say all over, because you do see that some of these bands do actually rotate around and they kind of fight against the dry air. This is all dry air out here. They fight against the dry air coming this way. So these are the bands that we're going to be alert for as the center gets closer to us. Looks like that's going to happen later on this afternoon. Now, here's the satellite, the morning satellite, and what you can see on here, a couple things. First of all, you see these outer bands here. These are the kind that are coming through. As you know, in South Florida this morning, we have a quick band come through. It kind of rains really hard, gusts a little bit, and then in between you have all this dry air where the air is very calm. So we go back and forth between a good downpour to nothing, and that's going to continue as the center kind of moves up in this direction here. Let's go close up on it. And the main thing we see on the close-up satellite picture is, see how these clouds, you can kind of see through them here? That's an indication that they're coming out of the hurricane, but they're pushing into dry air and they're kind of drying out. So even though we do see some kind of bright white clouds, they're all rotating around this side, the side that we're going to encounter here on the southeast coast of Florida and along much of the Florida coast. But this is definitely the weaker part of the storm. The stronger part of the storm all over here, with the center just about there. All right, here's the latest code. Well, first of all, I wanted to show you what it is that's keeping this under control. It's the same thing we've been looking at. Lots of dry air is off to the west of the hurricane and covering much of the state of Florida. And the hurricane is essentially fighting its way into that dry air because the upper level winds are pushing dry air toward the hurricane, and that's eroding this west side and not allowing it to develop. Now, let's take a look at the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center. And here's the thing to look at here. The main thing is, of course, that as the storm moves north in the cone and the bad weather is on this side here, you can see that most of the bad weather is going to stay off of Miami-Dade and Broward County, although Broward County comes closest to it. And maybe, as you'll see in a moment, some of it will fringe into Miami-Dade. That's why the tropical storm warnings are in effect. And also because as one of those bands comes through, it can easily have tropical storm force gusts as we get farther north, as the center gets farther north and closest to us. The other thing is that right now, the storm is involved with Andros Island, so part of the circulation is over Andros Island. But as it gets to the north up in here, now it's over the warm waters of the Gulf Stream. So you have two factors going on. One is the intensifying factor of warm water over the Gulf Stream. The other is the negative factor of all the dry air being pushed into the storm. So the Hurricane Center is holding it as more or less a Category 1, 80-mile-an-hour hurricane, trying to balance out those two factors, but that's really is an estimate. If the dry air would let up slightly, maybe it peaks up a little bit. If the dry air actually increases, then that might bring it back down a little bit. So it's a kind of a back and forth. Looking at the cone going farther north, the main thing here is that Central Florida sticks into the cone, the coastline there. That's why there are more warnings, hurricane warnings, up for that part of the state. Looking at the timing, here we are at noon. Now let's go forward in time, remembering that the 40-mile-an-hour winds are the yellows here. If you've been watching this, you notice that this has shrunk as the hurricane has gotten a little less organized. The extent of the strong winds has shrunk. So by late afternoon, just approaching the Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade County coast and over the islands of the Bahamas. Now, the orange areas are where we have hurricane force gusts and hurricane force sustained over the red. So watch as we go, and we'll see how close those hurricane force winds actually come to us. And you see as we get to later this evening and then get to the overnight hours, they stay offshore. So in this new advisory, the Hurricane Center is keeping the hurricane watch in effect for Broward, but we'll see as we go through the day. I wouldn't be surprised to see that taken down. But you see by overnight tonight, the tropical storm force winds are moving out of Miami-Dade and Broward County and then affecting significantly points to the north. And those hurricane force winds just offshore. And of course, we can't forecast that exactly. So this is why they have hurricane warnings in effect in case it were to jog a little to the left and bring those hurricane force winds just, that little bit of distance. Can't really forecast that precisely, especially when we're talking about kind of a day from now. And then it moves on up the coast, and this is why hurricane warnings are in effect all the way up the coast. As far as the hurricane models, some of them continue to bring the storm over the coast, but those are all indicating a weaker storm if it were to do that. So that's why we have confidence that this is not going to be a hurricane for Miami-Dade and Broward County. If it stays a strong enough storm, it will stay offshore. The red model there is the average or the consensus model. That's the most reliable model that we have, and it takes it north up the mid-Atlantic and northeast coast. So folks up there are going to have to indeed pay close attention to this because this could have a significant effect on them over the weekend. So the bottom line is confidence here in Miami-Dade and Broward County that the worst of this is going to stay offshore, but some of these bands could still come in with strong gusty winds. Just be aware of that. In between the bands, we might actually have essential calm, but it's not the eye of the storm. It's just a calm period in between the bands. Then later this afternoon and through this evening, it looks like that's when the strongest winds will affect Miami-Dade and Broward, and then by morning, it should be passed by to the north. So that's your update here for the midday. We'll keep you up to date through the day right here. And of course, on local10.com, you can watch Local 10 News Live. We're on with continuing coverage anywhere you are. Local10.com always has the newscasts live right there. So we'll see you either on Local 10 or right here on local10.com. See you later.